Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult, video number 329, the truth about demonic possession. Of course, there's only 24 hours till Halloween, so it's a fitting subject. Here's the truth about demons, demonic possession. I guess we can drag in exorcism and Ouija boards and semi-related topics here. People have always feared the concept that other entities could influence them, control them, etc. You find this in pre-Christian religion as well. The modern conception of it tends to be Christian or Islamic or Hindu. Those are the big three where you'll still find enough particularly religious adherents to believe in the premise of demonism, outside of course, a handful of devil worshippers or people that practice more literal ritual magic. That's the repository of the basic concept. So in Hinduism, you have various entities. You wouldn't necessarily call them all demons unless you're describing them in a Christian or Jewish sense, or Islamic, I suppose, that can enter into a body or influence you to do good, to do bad, etc. They can give you guidance. Within Islam, you have jinn. There's kind of a vague differentiation, by the way, between the jinn, which are kind of more like elementals or natural spirits, and can be converted to Islam, and all of this stuff, according to mystic Islam, Sufism, etc., and I believe the Shia, and demons outright, which are more like the literal fallen angel thing. Within Christianity, you have a hodgepodge, actually, of demons. One form of demon would literally be more like a ghost. Demons writ large as fallen angels is only one part of it. The sort of idea of disincarnate evil spirits influencing people, entering into their bodies, driving them mad, etc., doesn't really have anything to do necessarily with the fallen angel thing. The link is not 100% because there are these other spirits which were believed in by the early Jews, certainly around. There were these other beings that are identified as demons, but it's not quite clear that they're meant to be the same as the fallen angels. Like when the Jews, who were henotheists initially, and this leads into Christianity and some of its demonology teaching, so I'll get into this before I talk about Ouija boards and shit. As henotheists, they believed that all of the other tribal entities, Baals or little gods, that all of the surrounding little tribes worshipped, they believed that they were real. They believed that they actually existed. They simply said, but they're evil. They're demons, daimons. The problem is that it's not entirely clear within the Jewish system that this is meant to be, well, the fallen angels each went out and went off and snookered these tribes. You do have latter-day teachings with regards to that. If you look at some of the apocryphal works, I think it's the Book of Enoch, I think mentions something roughly akin to this, but the figures are not quite the same. They're just saying, well, these other gods, because they were henotheists, they didn't have the conception of demon in the same sense, were evil. The Christians have adapted this kind of confusing methodology. Now, do I believe that it is possible to be possessed by demons? The answer is no. In the sense that it is believed in by Judeo-Christians, by Islamists, etc., there's no particular reason to believe that that kind of thing actually happens. If it did, you would expect it to be quite widespread. Instead, we mainly find it in the sub-third world where you don't have a mental health care system, or where people can become brain damaged. They're using lead pipes, they're drinking water laced with arsenic, and they go nuts, and they can't figure out why because there's no doctor in the village that isn't just an herbalist. And that's really great for a headache or for a somnambulistic complaint, but it's not necessarily good for madness. Someone gets rabies, but the tribe doesn't understand the virus. You find that the idea of being possessed has been driven back first from industrial society, a la like the Victorian era. It becomes more analyzed in a secular sense, and we start treating people in asylums. And of course now we don't do that, even though there's something to be said for certain people being in there for some period of time. Just saying that the be nice to the mentally ill thing really backfired. It was sort of a push in the 1980s and 90s. Emptied out the asylums, a lot cheaper to give them pills, but then you have a homeless problem, and you just aren't housing them. Wonderful. It's much more merciful than giving them 3 square meals a day. Anyway, you don't find many cases of possession anymore in the developed world. Now, what I would ask is this. Why is it that demons prefer possessing people that are poor and downtrodden? Why is there a huge difference between the number of cases, even within religions? Look at religious Christians in fucking New York or Boston or something, the United States, Canada. in a developed country, a first world, fully developed nation, you find a sporadic number of people claiming to be possessed. For the most part, a psychologist ends up coming in, and everything eventually resolves itself. Also, the type of things that happen during that possession are different. It's just, well, they're behaving strangely and jumping up and down. They're like The Exorcist, the movie. Jumping up and down on the bed. They're just acting with my kid all of a sudden is screaming obscenities or something. Why is it that demons in Brazil or in Nigeria deform children and kill off livestock and cause people to get sick and go on rampages and drive one another mad? Those demons are pretty hardcore compared to the demons you tend to get in the first world. That's because essentially it's a psychological lashing out some of the time against social convention in the first world, because you don't have people with brain damage from lead pipes and lead paint. You don't have people drinking arsenic water. You don't have people getting exposed to ergot. You don't have people wandering around the bushes foraging, accidentally eating Jimson weed or something. If you take the pharmacological concept out, and you take the mental illness concept out, because of course you've got standardized systems in the West, the closest thing to someone acting possessed like they would act in parts of sub-Saharan Africa or parts of Latin America or whatever, or rural Asia, really you'll see under a bridge at night. Among people who are untreated, mentally ill, homeless, society's let them down. And by the way, it is basically society's fault. They can't help that they were born with schizophrenia or whatever, and there's nowhere for them to go, so they end up homeless. I'm so goddamn surprised. And then these people mill about, and they talk to each other about what they saw that day, and it must be very interesting and entertaining and whatever. The fact is that it's not possession, though. Mostly it's pharmacological or it's the result of mental illness. That's like 90%. Most of the first world cases, except for the sporadic outbreak of mushroom poisoning from milk, like Amanita, which is milk soluble, by the way, so keep the cows away from the red caps, or yellow in the eastern states. With regards to everything other than that or a mania, really you're talking about, some kid is exhibiting, it's not technically mentally ill, exhibiting some psychosomatic difficulties. And then a hypnotist is called in, or a psychiatrist or something, and then it doesn't work. So they administer the placebo effect and get an exorcism going. Now, I find it funny as well that every generation finds different things that can cause you to be possessed too. You can be possessed by the internet, supposedly. Before that, you could be possessed by reading tarot cards or going to the gypsy fortune teller. Before that, you could get possessed by a Ouija board or using a crystal ball. And before that, you could get possessed by, using too much opium, which probably is more realistic. The methodology changes. The diagnosis changes. The ratio of cases in different areas as they advance, so-called, changes, and that's true as well. Then we come to exorcism. Does exorcism work? Now, we've already established that demonic possession does not happen. There's no... and I believe in demons. Like, literally, I believe in these particular entities. I just don't consider them inexplicably evil, have interacted with these entities. But they don't possess you. That's basically horseshit, as anyone who understands basic science will understand and comprehend. Can exorcism work? Yes. There's the catch, because it's a placebo effect. But then again, handing him sugar pills can also work. If they believe that they've got a psychological disorder, you hand them sugar pills. If they believe the devil's inside of them, you call a priest or a rabbi or an imam or a temple cleric or something like that, because it helps to release the psychosomatic reason for the possession. It's just psychology. It's a kind of a form of hypnosis when you think about it. It's quackery. It's not... you could also take them, and this happens frequently in the third world, take them to the root doctor. In African tribes where possession is still described quite commonly, much of the time a cure is effected. Treatment actually works. Well, you're not bringing in a priest who supposedly has sole authority from the sole specific singular God over demons. Why is it that the root doctors work? The Catholics used to say, well, it's because Satan's trying to fool them into continuing their native religion. That was what a cop-out that was. No, it's because of psychology. Administering some psychoactive plants, it feels like it's working. Hey, I feel tingly and I'm sweating and, I feel kind of good, man. Yeah, I think the demon's gone. Thank you, root doctor. Here's a chicken for your plethora of workings on my behalf. It does work. Exorcism is quite real, but not for the reasons why the Catholics believe it, or Islamists and some of these other groups. Fascinating subject, though. Again, I say that I don't believe in demonic possession, but in a largely literal way, I do believe in demons. I'm not going to deny what I saw when I was a kid, so, whatever. That's about all. Peace out.